gone so close to the dump.
I made a non-gamer tutorial for the latest Five Nights at Freddy's game, and with it I taught 4 non-gamers how to properly move, look around, run, hide, and more in a 3D space so they could play the first hour of FNAF Ruin. And some things did not go well.
Whew, I'm really not feeling well.
Oh man, you might want to lay on your side.
So, why am I doing this? Well, because Five Nights at Freddy's has a weird problem that I'm trying to fix. These games have changed from something Markiplier's mom can play to 3D first-person adventures. And since a huge portion of FNAF's audience were kids who only played on mobile phones, a lot of the original audience has been left behind in this jump to 3D. It seems like the new developers at Steelwool Studios have tried to accommodate this by making the new 3D game simple, but this on its own hasn't been enough. We still have people like Average T, a 16-year-old Five Nights at Freddy's YouTuber with 40,000 subscribers who hasn't been able to complete the last 2 games because of general inexperience with 3D games and difficulties with the controls. Since Ruin's gameplay is just walking around and pressing E, I think that all Steelwool Studios needs to do is add an optional 10-minute tutorial for non-gamers, and that would make their game accessible to everyone.
Oh no. Oh my god! I seem to have fallen down a tube. Oh, security breach. Run!
I don't think that says run.
Oh no, it's Ruin.
The first thing I did was make a list of what players are expected to know before they start Ruin. The game expects people to know how to properly move, look around, press and hold interact, crouch, jump, use button doors, use auto doors, use ladders, move to light sources, work with cutscenes, and know enemy pathing. So my game had to teach all of that. Fortunately, I had a wonderful tool to help me get started, Etra's non-gamer tutorial creator. Oh wow, that's my name. This is a free Unity add-on that me and my volunteer community made with Minecraft texture packs and a lot of love. This tool has a web browser version available for everyone in my free Patreon tier, and overall has a lot of good things to start us out. Now for this FNAF tutorial, I was just gonna use my generic template, make everything a bit darker, and call it a day. But then I went on the internet. Horrible mistake. I saw a great fan animation by FNAF YouTuber Theft King, and it hit me that this non-gamer tutorial could fit perfectly inside FNAF Ruin, officially as an optional prologue chapter. In Theft King's fan animation, he voices a 3 AM YouTuber sneaking into the Mega Pizzaplex for internet clout.
What's poppin', guys? Back with another banger 3 AM challenge.
He then dies horribly from an evil basement creature.
Guys, I'm about to die. Please like it.
And this was beautiful. I had to make this the game. So I reached out to Theft King for his concept and voice. Now all I needed was a 1-to-1 recreation of the giant super mall. And after realizing that, I lost all hope for making this project perfect. Until I found Hope from PlanetMinecraft.com, who made a never-released 2-scale Minecraft recreation of the biggest room in the Pizzaplex with custom textures, which goes pretty well with a non-gamer tutorial system that conveniently supports Minecraft texture packs. With a Minecraft map importer and a lot of free models from Sketchfab, everything fell right into place. Now I'm gonna go through the tutorial game step by step to show you how it works, and I'm gonna point out 3 very important things to keep in mind when teaching, and I'll add them to our brand new, beautiful Teaching Non-Gamers Ruin Guide. First is a general rule for teaching any game, and that is let the player try and figure out everything they can on their own. Only help them when they ask for help or if things become too frustrating. A lot of the engagement with games comes with figuring out where to go or figuring out how to combine certain mechanics to advance. If a player is told everything, the game just becomes a lot less fun for them. My game starts with a basic pop-up which gives the player Pizzaplex lore and tells them why they're there. Once they close the pop-up, I actually take control away from the player and have them automatically move while speaking dialogue for 15 seconds.
Today, we're going to find out what horrors are in the secret staff-only basement. Good? Yeah, that was good.
This happens a lot in Ruin, and more than any other mechanic in the game, I was terrified of this. The simple walking and talking. Why? 'Cause motion sickness. I've introduced non-gamers to first-person games before, like Portal, and at one point, even Bendy and the Ink Machine. And at very specific points, new players would get motion sick. Quick movements in dark environments definitely didn't help non-gamers, but what caused the most issues was the camera moving automatically for any reason. This happened with any big head bob movements, of course, but it was worse for things like moving platforms or falling, just any time the player is moving without controlling that movement. And this makes sense, because the way normal motion sickness works is that if our body sees that we're moving, like on a ship or something, but notices our legs aren't moving, it freaks out. It seems like the same effect is recreated in the virtual world when new players see their in-game view moving without pressing any buttons to move, and that makes them feel sick. This definitely isn't foreshadowing for anything horrible. So what I did was have the player automatically walk and talk for 15 seconds before anything else. I was hoping that this, along with other dialogue sections while they're learning movement, would get the player used to these sudden camera changes before the player feels like they're the character on the screen. Still, just in case, I think it's good practice, and I'll add it to the coaching guide to warn players of these cutscene events when playing FNAF Ruin, so they have a moment to disconnect from their virtual bodies. Man, video games are weird. After those 15 seconds, the player learns how to move right, left, then up, so their hands get positioned correctly on the keyboard. The player unlocks looking up and down, and then has to combine that with the button pressing and strafing they did earlier to practice all of those skills. They finally enter the atrium hallway and hear more fantastic, amazing dialogue.
This place is all like dark and ruined.
They get their flashlight, learn how to jump, get used to ladder cutscenes, then they get to Ruin's dumb, bad, janky sprint mechanic. It's a toggle, but you need to repress that toggle when your stamina is restored. It's weird, and I resorted to using pop-ups to teach this. Just be ready to tell players that they need to tap the run button again if they're in a chase. Next, the player learns how to look left and right. For this sharper curve, a prompt pops up that shows players to pick up the mouse and readjust it to turn further. You may have to manually show this action to the players. Next, I gave the player a quick reminder of the sprint mechanic here, because the player will need to sprint to get past my beautifully modeled stoof bots. This area and the scripted chase right after it ended up getting really good reactions.
Oh my god. Yeah.
The button!
The button!
Oh, just made it in time!
Take that, stupid robot.
Stress.
3 AM YouTuber THG then dies horribly.
Hello?
And after that, I put a credits room here to see if new players would just mess around in it. I also needed a place to put the wonderful Patreon wall of support.
Gamers, so the fact you've taken the step in to give it a go was very brave. And look, all these people here say you're very brave as well.
Wow, these Patreon supporters sure are cool.
Now that the game was done, I reached out to a bunch of FNAF creators I worked with in the past, and I only got 2 responses. Theft Keen, the voice actor and FNAF YouTuber, who wanted to share what he loved with his brother, who we'll call Mike, and Average T Tyson, the YouTuber from earlier who hasn't played the last 2 FNAF games. Before I sent anything over, I made the non-gamer coach guide printable, and I also made a printable non-gamer guide for Ruin to remind new players of the controls. I sent Theft Keen everything and waited. The next day, he finished the testing, messaged me, and simply said the results were very enlightening. Uh-oh. So the test with Theft Keen and his brother Mike started fine, you know, like most horrible things do. Then they hit a bug where a cutscene and a chase played at the same time, causing an infinite loop, so they played through the game again to have the same bug occur, but now with pop-ups. It took a 3rd try to finally get through. Really frustrating, but fine. I just needed to fix 2 bugs before sending this to anyone else. The real test was if the game taught everything it was supposed to for the first hour of Ruin. And with the bias of being taught everything 3 times over, I can say the tutorial game did its job. And overall, things went fine at the start. There was no motion sickness with the walking and talking, or the 180-degree ladder spins. Mike was moving perfectly fine. They even tracked enemy patterns, which was great. The only part they got a bit stuck on was looking for a door switch, because they didn't know doors auto-opened. And yes, I did code replica auto-opening doors for the tutorial. I just forgot to put them in the tutorial. But once the player knew this list of untaught concepts from the non-gamer tutorial, they did great in Ruin, because the game is really good at guiding a player without words. Theft King pointed out that the game literally has a subconscious yellow brick road. In every area of the game, either the brightest spot in the room or a literal yellow path will secretly show a player where to go all throughout the game. My favorite example of this is after the player picks up the walkie-talkie, the darkness magically fades from this elevator shaft to reveal Walrus. I didn't even notice all this, so I didn't put it in my tutorial, but Theft King pointed this yellow brick road out to Mike, and he said that really helped him stay on course. So I'm gonna add mentioning the yellow brick road to the coaching sheet. There were only a few slight issues. First, Mike sometimes missed pressing E on things, which, could be fixed by a reticle. But apparently, even though there's a reticle in the base game, you can't turn it on in the DLC. Why? Also, Mike would sometimes lose where he was when he stood on stairs or any sort of slanted surface. In this I've actually seen before. For some reason, new players stay laser focused on the center of their screen, and that means when the floor is no longer in this little box, they get confused. Because of this, Mike would also get stuck on chest height obstacles that were right outside his little view box. However, when this happened, Theft King helped direct by telling Mike to keep an eye on the floor and move the camera down. When he did this, everything was fine, so I'll add mentioning that to the coach guide. Oh, and there was one other small, tiny, minuscule problem. He died.
You might want to lay on your side.
Motion sickness completely knocked him out, and he couldn't even finish an hour of the game.
Whew, I'm really not feeling well.
All right.
I do want to finish, but I don't think I can.
So surprisingly, in my game and for most of Ruin, with all the cutscene camera movement, Mike had no motion sickness whatsoever. At a base level, a dark room and darkness in a game can be disorienting and lead to motion sickness. And that on its own was a challenge, but it wasn't the biggest issue, because Theft King made sure his brother was in a bright, well-lit room, and that counteracts a lot of motion sickness usually. The big problem was a specific part of Ruin's core gameplay loop. In Ruin, you have to switch between the real world and the AR world to activate these security nodes. You have to find where a security node is in the real world by looking for these patches of glitched reality, and uh-oh, what is that? That is technically the screen moving without the player pressing anything.
Can I pause? Yeah. I'm feeling motion sick.
And going through the replay, we can see how a combination of the darkness and these indicators just whack the life out of Mike, bit by bit by bit. Then he died. The problem is I can't mod this effect out completely because something still has to show players where the security nodes are in the AR world. And even if I magically did find a solution to that, the darkness is still an issue. Ruin is just a really frustrating mix of perfectly guiding players through the map design and giving simple engaging gameplay, but at the same time intentionally trying to confuse and scare players with the visual design and the darkness. And I didn't know how to deal with this. But hey, I still had one more tester. Maybe the game wasn't that bad. Maybe it was just Mike, an average team. The very day that Tyson was finally able to test the game, water spilled on and destroyed his computer. So I posted a call for help, looking for testers on this channel, my old channel, and YouTube shorts of each too. No responses. I was completely defeated. I fixed the bugs in my program, but I didn't see a point. But then, the fantastic place I'm living at right now, the Swedish Gamedev house hotel Spelkollektivet, check them out in the link below, ran their Halloween Game Jam event. It's a game-making competition where people from all around the world visit to make a game in a limited time. And one person who dropped by was Joey FDH. She's a sound design and music student who went to the jam to make music for people and to learn about video games. So I had to make Ruin work. I had to help Joey. I went into Ruin settings, maxed out the brightness, and tried to think of anything else to help. And that's where I found it. The gamma setting. What a gamma setting usually does is it takes mid-range colors and it makes them all closer to the brightest or darkest color. So I had an idea. If I combined this max brightness with a maxed gamma setting, and I got it. This combination made these wavy lines way less intense. In fact, everything is a bit less intense. The game is washed out and looks less scary, but this could work. I updated the instructions on my Patreon, then I lit up everything in my room. I opened my window, I used screen lights in the background, I even replaced my yellow light bulbs with brighter white bulbs. I printed out the non-gamer guide, my coaching sheet, and...
Oh shit!
It's okay. Everything was perfect, better than any other first-person game on this channel. I also got 2 more results from subscribers with the same great news, except near the end with one tester who didn't change the visual settings and got motion set.
That's my stomach's just gone.
We're
It's a shame, it's such a good game. Oh my god!
Oh, a nice ramp.
Oh god, I'm insane! You
Now-
do realise I'll get no housework done if I have this at home.
Run.
Where?
Oh gosh.
I hope you learn to love on World We Hold Dear.
Ah, thank you, Chef King.
And thanks to all the Patreon supporters who have access to Minecraft for non-gamers right now, especially $100 sponsor Marcus Batson. So subscribe to the free Patreon tier. I'll catch you on the flip side.